Hey there. I am super excited to be sharing a new series I've created for you. It's called the Soul Leadership Series. Let me share my screen so you can see what we're doing here today. Present here. So this is a series that I've created for you in order to help you through some of these survival stories that a lot of us face. So twice a month, I'm creating an episode for you on these different survival stories. There are about 21 of them. And they're subconscious beliefs that have developed early in life for you. Up until about 10, we're in a brainwave state where everything we get basically drops into our system. A little more on that in a few moments. But my hope is that these episodes will help you understand yourself with more compassion, understand that these stories no longer serve you, you can move through them, and that you realize that you can refuse to let your life's circumstances define your future. Isn't that amazing? You can. You have that kind of power. So let's move really quickly into a couple of examples of what a survival story is. So it's I'm not enough. I'm too much. Boy, I got that one a lot when I was younger. I'm alone. I'm invisible. There are many others, but I wanted to give you a couple of examples. With today's episode, we're going to be covering I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And so take a moment and kind of think in your life what that feels like that you're not enough. And here's kind of what happens, how it happens. I alluded to that just a minute ago, that we're not born believing that we're not enough. These stories have been created over time when you're young, when you don't have the discerning mind to say, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would that be the case, right? So you want to make sense of the world around you. And so these stories are shaped by our family and their belief systems. And we know that, our parents grew up. It's sort of a rolling downhill thing they stopped it, unless they were a cycle stopper, they continue to live out those limiting beliefs, life experiences, family, culture. These are the things that shape our young minds. And so, unless we look at that, we continue to create from those limiting beliefs. And so, the nervous system, the subconscious mind have received these programs from when we were young. And when we're young, we're really focused on safety. We want to feel loved. We want to feel accepted. And if we don't receive that, we think that it's our fault. And so here's the other thing that we then continue to move through with these limiting beliefs, these unhealthy coping strategies. And while they offered you protection because you were young, because you relied on the people around you to keep you safe, to love you, to avoid pain, we dropped right into that same story, right? But now, and if you're running from these stories, they're going to impact your health, your relationships, your confidence, your success. And this is true long after, unless you focus. So that's what these episodes are about, are helping you like drop in just a little bit of a nugget of awareness so that you can make some changes. And again, these are how the stories begin. Let's drop into this a little bit more. This is a little bit deeper. The I'm not enough story is when you maybe received praise for doing something, for performing. I'm the oldest of three girls, so I definitely have run this survival story for a long time in my life until I became aware of it. So it was conditional, right? Love was conditional. Safety was conditional. And so you had to perform a certain way in order to feel safe, feel loved. Growing up with somebody who's very critical, or they were a perfectionist, or had unrealistic expectations of you, this causes the I'm not enough pattern. Comparing is a really horrible one. In the next slide, it's the thief of joy when we compare. And we see this in society so much. I know, being on social media, uh, all we see is comparing, or we do that in our own mind. We don't necessarily see others sometimes, but we tend to run that story in our mind. I don't have enough. I'm not doing enough. Feeling unseen or unheard or emotionally dismissed. This can cause the I'm not enough pattern. Living with somebody who is emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, or highly stressed. Our nervous system imprints on everyone else around us. And so as parents, as a mother, I really wanted to focus. I didn't always get it right, but I wanted to focus on how do I stay calm and grounded and collected so that I'm not imprinting that stress on my kids. And sometimes it's not possible. We all go through traumatic stuff in our life. But this is one of the reasons why this pattern can be ingrained in you. I grew up in a family where there was substance abuse. My father left when we were pretty early, so my mom was she went back to work. She was a stay-at-home mom and then went back to work. And she was incredibly stressed because we became latchkey kids. That's kind of, that was the term back in the 70s when you had to come home to an empty house and kind of take care of yourself. And maybe you've had that experience as well. And then taking on adult responsibilities at a young age, being parentified. Oh my goodness, I can relate to this one too, being the oldest of three girls in the family. So these are some of the reasons why this story, this I'm not enough story, takes hold. So the limiting beliefs around this is I'm an imposter. Like, how many times have you said, I need to study more before I do something? And we see statistics for women, especially, where they need to know 80%. There's some statistic, it's high for women. They need to know about 80%, let's just say, before they will apply for a job, where men can come in and go, I know about 40% of that. I'll apply for the job. So there's this imposter syndrome. And it doesn't mean that men don't feel this as well. It's just that I'm focusing, my clients typically are women, high achieving women, spiritually minded women. I don't know enough. Been there. Can't tell you how many certifications I have because I've felt this way, or I don't have enough. So that scarcity mindset can be a limiting belief from this pattern running. So the cost of this pattern running, chronic people pleasing, overcommitting, saying yes to everything, that's the undercurrent is people pleasing, right? You want to make everybody happy. Giving up on things or quitting too soon. This was something, avoidance, procrastination for me. Being pulled in too many directions because you've said yes to too many things. You want to be the rescuer, right? This is a whole other dynamic that I will go into in a later episode. Feeling like you have to do more than everyone else to prove your worth. And then comparison, which we talked about in the previous slide, which is a thief of joy. Comparison is a thief of joy. So one powerful shift, instead of asking, how do I become enough? Try asking, what if I've always been enough? And I've just been living from an outdated survival strategy. Ah, that's a powerful question, isn't it? What if I've always been enough? And so when you reframe that, when you ask the question, and you can find evidence that you are enough, but when that dominant pattern is running, if we don't step back and ask these deeper questions, that keeps running. But when we step back and ask a question like, what if? You create some room for, yeah, what if? And then you start to doubt, you start to question, not necessarily doubt, you start to question that pattern. Wow, this whole time. And so working through it through a nervous system perspective, this is what they call somatic work, helps to shift the body. So here's the key shift. Here's a new skill. You go from survival story, you recognize it. Oh, there's that survival story running. Pay attention to it. Where does it show up? Does it show up with friends? Does it show up with other parents if you're a parent? For me as a mama, it was school activities and other things where I felt like I had to be involved and I wanted to be involved, but you only have so much bandwidth. That's part of it, is to recognize your own limitations, your own energy, to be able to take care of yourself first. So then you remember, you come to the truth. My worth has never been, I've never required, it has never, let me just read it off the screen. My worth has never required proof. Where did it come up that I needed proof? Yeah, there were circumstances that you grew up in where you did probably require some proof. People required proof of you, but that's a limiting belief and that's a falsehood. And so when you recognize the pattern and then remember that your worth is inherent, you have to prove nothing. You get to take up space on this planet, starts to change the way you are oriented in the world. And then a new choice. So today I'll stop proving and start trusting. I'll stop measuring my value by performance. Sure, those are big, lofty goals. Understand that that can happen. Sometimes there are things that happen in our life where it's a dramatic shift, like there's a cataclysmic shift in our life. Most times it's these small, smart steps that we begin to take. First is the recognition, first is the awareness, a new choice, a new belief, and then patterns to help you create a new behavior in your life. That's generally how it works. And so the soul-led question then, if we're talking about soul leadership and recognizing your worth, it's what would I choose today if I already believed I was enough? What would you choose today? For me, I'd choose to take a nap. I'm a big napper. I can sleep anywhere. It's sort of a gift. It's kind of my superpower. I would choose to take a nap today, or I would choose to spend some time on something that's really important to me. I might go out in the garden for 15, 20 minutes, 5 minutes. Just that choice to show, to embed in you that you are worthy. You are worthy of taking up space. You are worthy of choosing things that are important to you and making time for them. You are worthy of taking care of yourself instead of neglect because you're taking care of everybody else through people pleasing, chronic over commitments. You get the idea. A soul-led action. So turning it into a behavior is I'll speak up in a small way to start the new habit. You'll know what that is. Small, smart steps is generally something that helps the nervous system because big actions, big, bold actions, which we can do for sure. But when you have an awareness and you begin to think, and you begin to decide, I'm going to embody a new belief, you also have to align it with your body. And if the body doesn't feel safe, if the nervous system is still on high alert, those big actions, it's going to shut down. It's going to be like, nope, nope, we're not doing that. And so it can sabotage. So the awareness is important, the decision for something new, the recognition that you are worthy, and then start with small, smart steps. Small, smart steps. So it might be like, I apply myself to something that's important to me. I'll charge my worth. And what does that mean? That's a bigger conversation. But these are the ways that you can begin to feel like you're enough, feel like you're worthy, feel like your gifts are important to bring into the world. You are unique, my friend. You have incredible gifts. If you're still standing, you have been through so many challenges in your life that have created this reservoir of resources that you can pull from. It's just beginning to go, oh, there's that one. I'm going to take that. Oh, there's that one, and I'm going to use that. Perfect. I have the skill set. I absolutely do. You have the skill set for anything, my friend. Getting to this point in your life, are you kidding? I'll rest today, even if it's for 5 minutes of silence in the bathroom. I had to do this as a mama. I had to duck into the bathroom. Clearly, when my kids weren't, 2 and, young enough, I had to, aside from when I could let go of the supervising, I could go into the bathroom for 5, 10 minutes, maybe bring a book, drink my coffee hot. Holy moly, was that a gift? Or I'll ask for help because I deserve love and support. And there are people who want to help you. We can be our own worst enemy in some ways where we can feel like we are strong enough to handle it all. That's the not enough piece. Proving that perfection. I had a therapist one time tell me, well, you're a high functioning female. I thought, wait, is that a compliment or is that an insult? And it was both. Actually, for me, when I really dropped into it, I'm like, no, sure, I'm high functioning, but do I want to be? I don't want to handle the mental, emotional, all the load. No, I do not. I want to feel like I'm being supported by people who recognize their responsibility in the relationship, in the household. You get the idea. Okay, so we have one mini practice. See, isn't this great? This episode is pretty short. You can get through it. You can take what you want. You can drop in a little bit deeper. So this mini practice, 1 minute. So today, my friend, today, notice every time you hear yourself thinking, I should, I'm behind, I need to prove, I'm not doing enough. And then simply pause for a moment when you catch yourself. Pat yourself on the back and recognize, wow, I noticed. I noticed that pattern. Excellent. As soon as you notice, it starts to unhook from you. It's like pulling the plug. It's like cutting the cords, which some spiritual practices do just that, cut the cord. Pause for a moment. Take one deep breath down to your belly, all the way down to the belly. So shallow breathing, we're stressed, right? We're very shallow. It's kind of up here in the chest. What we want to do is draw the breath all the way down. That activates the diaphragm and begins to help the nervous system reset itself. You're moving out of stress state, which is the sympathetic nervous system, into the parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, de-stress. Okay, you're moving out of the F words, I call them: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And there's actually one more, which is faint, kind of a collapse. But fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Think of those, the F words. You're shifting out of that. You're shifting out of the sympathetic nervous system and into the rest, digest, and de-stress. Okay? And then ask yourself, is this my wisdom speaking? So when you're hearing that voice, where is it in your head, for one? Is it your wisdom? Or is it my survival story? And I think you know what the answer will be for that one. And then just notice what it reveals when you ask. When it reveals itself without forcing an answer, just notice what comes up. Close your eyes, breathe for a few moments, and just ask, what is this? Where is this coming from? Oh, I remember, right? And a memory might pop into your mind. You might hear some things. Just let your intuition start to guide you. And as I said, awareness is the precursor to change. Awareness is the precursor to change. So when you notice these patterns, again, pat yourself, kiss yourself. So you did a great job, Lori. Why, thank you, Lori. You can talk to yourself that way for sure. Maybe in a room where nobody's seeing you, so they don't think you're crazy. Although science does prove that those of us that talk to ourselves are actually pretty intelligent, just so you know. It's a reflection of intelligence. So awareness is where transformation begins. So there you have it. There's the episode for today. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. You can email me. You can respond to the emails that I'm going to be sending out about this. And then for additional support, I just want to share that I have a Soul Leadership Path coaching program. And if you feel like you want to begin to uncover some of these stories that have been shaping your life for weeks, months, decades. In my case, it was decades. That's why I'm doing the work that I do, because I had to go through it myself. I just want you to know that I have this option for you. If you really want that kind of support, if you want the accountability, loving accountability, as this is generally, I know this is generally how I've changed, is that I had the accountability. Somebody knew my situation, knew I was motivated to change, and was holding a space for me to be able to do that. I have that for you as well. And if that's something that you would want or want to just discuss, say you're curious about what this would involve, then you can reach out to me for a discovery call. I'll have the link in the email. Yes, I'll have the link in the email. I'm just thinking it through because this is the first episode, so I'm formulating how I'm going to be communicating with you. So again, I would love to hear your thoughts on what I've shared today in this episode. And as always, I'm here to support you if you need further, if you want a beautiful sacred container to really make the transformation that you've been wanting for maybe a very long time. So thank you. It's my honor to support and share what I know in order to help you. And I We'll see you in the next episode.